Recorded Books and RB Digital present Body Broker by Daniel Ford. Narrated by Angelo Di Loretto. Chapter 1. The first notes of LA Freeway pulled me out of sleep. I had the phone in my hand and was fumbling it to a stop before Guy Clark could start telling his wife to pack up the dishes. Kind of a shitty division of labor, I thought. Man just sings about getting off the highway and his wife's got to do all the work. Figures. Once I blinked my eyes clear, I tapped the passcode into the phone. 2 tries, after I fat-thumbed the first. Then I hauled myself to my feet, the deck pitching just a little under me, and flipped open my work email, which surprisingly enough had a couple messages in it. One was the Undersecretary of the Department of Homeland Security requesting my assistance in the transfer of the money fund account in the amount of $5,750,000 into my bank as soon as I produced a routing number. I flicked Report Spam. The other was a furniture and home goods catalog, trying desperately to sell me a dining room set. I looked at it with a bit of suppressed nesting instinct longing before tossing the phone on my unmade bed. I could hear a few gulls, some people stomping around on the docks. I shuffled over to the fridge and looked inside. A long, neglected can of Guinness, cold and seductive. Milk. One last jar of fancy almond butter sitting in front of a jar of plain, workmanlike organic peanut butter. Cocktail ingredients neatly marshaled along the door. I grabbed the jar of almond butter and a tablespoon from the basket on top of the mini-fridge and walked topside while I had breakfast. I may have turned my alarm off, but the song was in my head, and I murmured the chorus while I looked over the water. If I can just get off of this LA freeway without getting killed or caught. It was mid-September, and the river was holding on to summer's heat, if not its humidity. The early morning sunlight, 8:30 a.m. was early in my world, shimmered off the brown and gold water. A heron knifed into the shallows from the bank and took off with a speared fish. Show off, I muttered, out of spite, as I chewed through a stubborn hunk of vanilla and whey protein almond butter. I described the flavor as whey protein forward. It had probably been shown a bottle of vanilla extract or a painting of a vanilla bean at some point in its manufacture. I polished off the 2 remaining tablespoons in the jar, stuffed it into a plastic bag that served for garbage, and set about putting a gym bag together. The marina was in a small riverside town and full of recreational boats that were more often lovingly washed and cleaned up than they were taken out into the river or the Chesapeake Bay beyond. But there were usually people moving around it, starting a camping vacation or heading to a bay island, loading folding bicycles and coolers in. I lived here, usually. For a few extra bucks a month in slip rent, the manager, a guy named Marty, let me hook up to the electric and the water. I gave him a hand with manual labor whenever he could catch me. I kept a pretty close watch on Marty's comings and goings, closer than he was able to keep on mine. Coast looked clear, so I set out for the gym. It wasn't too long a walk from the marina to Pulaski Highway, then just a few minutes walking along the side of it like a hobo in sweatpants and Converse. I was about halfway there, starting to work up a sweat, when I heard the brief flare of a siren and the telltale sound of interceptor wheels on gravel. God damn it! I started to put my hands up when I heard a thick voice say, "Oh, for fuck's sake, Jack, get in the truck. We gotta talk." I dropped my hands and turned around, taking in the Cecil County Sheriff's black SUV and the wall of blue-shirted deputies standing behind the open door. "Jesus, Bob," I sputtered. "You could have just called," I said, as I scuffled along the gravel to his empty passenger side. I slid in, and he shut the doors, flicking the lights back on to merge back into traffic. "I was driving in the marina to look for you," he said. Bob Sanderson, Corporal Sanderson, looked far too constrained by the driver's side of his car. "Manager told me you'd already taken off for the gym before—"
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.